Yeah. Why don't, so
Do you want to introduce
why don't
them
we start this way and flow this way? Feel free to heckle each other as well.
Kevin has the same lesson as mine. I got to improv. I'm glad I'm going first.
Nothing left.
Stealing everything you got in mind.
You get to plow through. Open field.
Right in front of them. If his tie moves, just scratch your eyebrow.
All right, it is Kane Alessia, the world-class speaker with the dream team at this table of incredible entrepreneurs and speakers. It's our honor and our privilege to be in this room, and we want to take just a moment to share between all of us here. We have been speaking across the world, I think up to maybe 50, 60 countries, reached billions of people with our messages and our ideas. And I wanted everybody to share with you what was their one greatest lesson that they pulled out from their decades of speaking, training, educating, and serving people across the world. Mr. Kevin Harrington.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to start. So I love watching speakers, and I've learned so much from watching others, but one of the original speakers that was a game changer for me was Zig Ziglar, and Zig said, you can get everything in life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want. So my style of speaking is to give tons of content and load them up with great ideas, content to give them ideas. And I love talking to entrepreneurs, so I talk about the ups and the downs, and I find that every time I speak, something very powerful comes out of it for me that I didn't even plan on, and that's because I'm giving to them, and then it's coming back to me in some weird way at the end of the day. So I think that's kind of how I live my life, is to give out, and then eventually I think it comes back. And I know, Les, I've learned a lot from you too. So thanks for being part of me learning about speaking also.
Well, we've learned from each other, because I believe that you're never too old to learn and you're never too young to teach, and he's a master teacher. What I got, the same thing that you got from Zig, that meant a lot to me when I heard that from Zig, and I use that principle in my business, in my personal life. But also what I realized is practicing the principle of OQP, only quality people. Surround yourself with people that you can learn from, that you can grow from, people that will impact you mentally, emotionally, financially, and spiritually, and take you to a place within yourself that you can never go by yourself. Relationships are very important to me, and that's what I realized, that if one is going to become successful, you need some solid relationships that will hold you accountable to a higher standard.
Wow, that is so true.
Speaking of relationships, let's hear from this.
Yes, the protege of the world's greatest speaker. I remember when you came back from speaking to the Gates family at Microsoft, and afterwards they said, Les Brown, you talked about those 10 and 20-year goals. That's cute, but we want to show you something. And they pulled up a screen and said, this is where the Gates family will be in the area of technology 100 years from now. 100 years from now. So they had a 100-year plan for their family. And I think now when we look at most wealth is gone by the second generation, over 75%, and over 90% by the third generation. One of the most impactful moments in my career was hearing that, because I thought, how do I make a 100-year plan for the first family of motivation, for the Brown family, so that when you even Google success, you see Mamie Brown's picture. And so I'm excited to be working with you and your wife to do that and to take this around the world.
Make a plan. That's a good one.
That's awesome. Well, I think I'm a baby here, especially in terms of speaking. And so I'm maybe the one that is most connected to how it was to start. I remember very well that 6 years ago, not only I had never spoken, but I did not speak English. So being here, I'm very present to the journey that it took to be at this table. And one of the biggest lessons that I've learned, and when people ask me what did it take to actually get there and get there so fast, it's been really showing up. I feel like so many times we are so concerned about whether we are perfect and super ready and whether we look good, etc., that we stop that process and we make it much longer. And I might say that very often I showed up and I wasn't ready and I wasn't looking at my best. I mean, just recently I had the pleasure to speak in Dubai, sharing the stage with Lisa Nichols, not only pregnant, but with a broken toe in a cast, right? And so many times in my head I had this story of, that doesn't look good, I really should be home right now, right? But I did it anyway, and every time I learn more, and one thing that I learn every time is that it doesn't matter how I feel, there are people that actually need to hear whatever story, whatever message I have. And so it's not so much about us, although we get a lot of attention as speakers, but it's really about the audience and the fact that we are there to serve them and to really help them get what they are there to get. So that's, I think, my biggest lesson.
That's beautiful. So my biggest lesson on speaking over the years has been really to let the audience in. And as someone who's, let's say, a man, like to be looking very powerful and perfect, and I've continued to practice vulnerability. And as I've done that, as I've shared more and more deeply with audiences, my concerns, my fears, challenges I've gone through, going through health crises, financial crises, whatever they were, I could see that the connection became real. And what I've learned is my greatest lesson is when you get real with the audience, they get real with you.
Wow.
And that's what I think we're really in the business of, is getting real.
Well, I'm Alex Mandossian. If we've never met, I'm the son of George and Carol Mandossian. I was born in Hollywood, California. And most people don't know who I am except my little world of digital marketing. And I got online BG. You've heard of BC, but BG is before Google. So Google is God with a little g, right? And I don't have imposter syndrome, which is like, I haven't earned the right. I have dinosaur syndrome. Because most of my students are now my teachers, right? So I go over the world and ask people, I want you to be bigger than me, wealthier than me, smarter. And nothing is more annoying than what actually happens, right? And there's so many of them. Biggest lesson I've learned is to focus on one topic and one talk, and when you find that, then sloppy success is better than perfect mediocrity. Just stick with it, because it's never the right one initially. And I believe you can't find it. Like I didn't find my topic found me. So if you listen to enough speakers, I listen in the car, it's a university, right? When I'm walking my dog, doing the dishes, working out, and I listen to speakers. And I've been doing that for over 40 years. Now, my mother still doesn't know what I do, but she was the first speaker I had to listen to, and usually her finger was, in front of her speech. But what's important is there's always going to be an audience for you. And if you're starting or you're saying, what do I have to say that someone else would listen to, or is it important? It is important to someone. My mother wouldn't listen to me for more than 3 minutes, but there'll be people who listen to me for 3 hours. And so the goal is find that one talk. And here's the biggest mistake I made. I changed my talks. And look, you're not speaking to a grandstand of people sitting there. You're speaking to a moving parade, which means same speech, and you're going to go to different audiences. Now, there's only one addition I would make to that, is I have the same talk every time, but I always change the beginning. Because the beginning is where you begin engagement, and that beginning, the first 300 seconds, is either going to make or break it, because if you lose their attention, you lost them for the next 55 minutes if it's an hour speech. So I always change the beginning to be custom to the audience when I know what their chief complaint is or their problem. And by changing that beginning, then the rest of the talk sounds like it's a genius, right? So one talk, change the beginning in front of different audiences, find out what their core complaints are. And then I hope that if you have family members, you don't always share your talk with them, because they're not going to give you the truth.
Really good. I love it. I'm Dr. Ona Brown. I'm Les Brown's baby girl, and I'm known as the message midwife. And one of the greatest lessons that I would say that I've learned in the speaking industry, coaching other speakers and as well as traveling around the world, is the beauty of being your authentic self. There was a time in the beginning stages of me speaking where there was so much pressure on me to try to find a way to shine my light in the midst of this gigantic shadow of this man known as Mr. Les Brown, the motivator, Mamie Brown's baby boy. And the inner conversation was that no one would have value for what I had to bring, and that I had to somehow be like him and the other speakers that I admire. I had met Jim Rohn, the great Jim Rohn, met Zig Ziglar, a lot of the giants of this industry, Mr. Tony Robbins. So there was this pressure to be something like a combination of all of them, and maybe that would look like success. And then finally, I remember when I had the aha moment, the breakthrough moment, that I didn't have to be a mini version of my father, as powerful as he is. I didn't have to be a mini version of the great Brian Tracy or Jim Rohn. All I had to do was be my authentic self, and that there was someone that would resonate with me, someone that would get who I am in a unique way, and I would be able to speak into their life and connect with them in a powerful way like no one else, because there's someone that has your name on them, and they will never be able to get it from any of these great people. They'll only be able to get it from you because of where you're from and your background and your upbringing and your seasoning and your flavor that comes with each individual. So we all have our unique selling point. We all have our uniqueness, and so I encourage people to tap into it, because when I did, that was powerful for me.
Wow, beautiful. We got seven
my sister.
powerhouses.
I was taking notes.
7 powerhouses at this table. 7 different professionals.
7.5, actually.
7.5. Yeah, we have a
More
half.
than a half.
This,
7.75.
this may better know what he's getting into.
Right.
I gotta say. And the point of this, and why I wanted to shoot this video, is you got different people who are all having a great time, having their passion, making their profits, making a difference, making an impact, making an income, all in different ways. And that means that you can find your authentic voice, and you will find that at the World Class Speaker. So we look forward to seeing you, so that our team and our family can help you support your team and your family to make a massive difference in the world, to learn how to motivate and to monetize. And that's what each of us have learned how to do in the world in order to serve. And that's what we're here to do, is to serve each other. Thanks very much for checking it out. And thank you to all of you for being here. From Alessia, myself, the Industry Rockstar family, and all these amazing, extraordinary people on the planet, we look forward to seeing you soon.